Alright, so we are back into another Dragon Ball Super card game video. I'm kind of backed up in a lot of different videos I want to do, especially deck profiles, but I wanted to go ahead and do this, another rulings video. If you haven't checked out the last couple, I've been doing it pretty much every single month, and hopefully I can kind of keep that cadence every single, every single time a set drops. And for this one, it does involve a lot of the set 7 rulings, and as well as cards and clarifications, and for any kind of questions that you may have or anything I've gotten wrong in this that I haven't referenced to or haven't explained, definitely put yourself in the comments below or comment below what you want me to go over or correct. Of course, like, dislike, subscribe if you're new. We're gonna jump right into it if you haven't checked it out. So of course, this is the ruling page. I use it every single time I do one of these videos. And all of it can be found, or at least all the rulings and play manuals and things like that can be found in the bottom here. Even the stuff for shop tournaments and team events, things like that. And of course the Q&A, errata cards, all that. And some more food for thought. If you didn't know, the manual always updates, or says when it last updates. The last one was the 31st. And if you scroll all the way down to the bottom, if it doesn't lag, it actually tells you what revisions have been updated. Just food for thought. And finally, as I go through these, as this is the first and the second one kind of put together, if you want to put a timestamp for those, put it in a comment below. I'll definitely pin it if I don't get to it first. The first one I kind of want to go through is the red color, multicolored sort of debacle that Eggman did a very good video on. If you haven't checked that out, I'll put in the link. I'll put a link in the description below, or put like a little card or something like that. I'm sure he'll kind of pop his head in and say, "Hey, come to my channel," and then watch the video. But if you didn't know, all the ISR cards, the Infinite Saiyan cards, or the Infinite Saiyan rares, say non-red, non-blue, etc. And the question was, does a multicolored card count as a non-red card? Technically, it is a red card. At the same time, it is a green card. If you kind of separate these things, just understanding characteristics and just I guess the fact of it being a green card as well, it counts as a non-red card at the same time. And as it says, yes, it does count as a red-green multi-card, since it does have two colors, and it counts both as non-red and as non-green. So technically, you can't have multicolored cards in the public areas when you do use the ISR. And furthermore, they all have been errated officially, and I'm sure Eggman will take all the credit for it, and I will give him all the credit for it. I think at first I was on the boat of, a multicolored card does count as a red card, so you can have it in it. I think that's what I said in the preview video too, but I'm happy to be wrong, because it does make sense. Well, okay, let me back it up. I can understand the wording now in saying, you can't play this card if you have anything in your deck other than your life, deck, and hand that isn't a red color. So there are any other color than red. So if you say non-red, you can't play in your non-red cards in open areas, as in the things that you can hand to your opponent as a public area. It makes sense now. It makes sense what they were trying to do. It was just the translation / choice of words, poor choice of words. That is pretty much the whole thing. And if you haven't seen it, every single one of the ISRs have been errated that I know of, in saying the yellow, the green, the blue, and as well as the black, saying all the same ones. If you didn't know of the Gogeta leader and as well as the Gogeta archetype, it does say you can't play this unless you have a leader card that is red and no other color, that sort of thing. Anyway, moving on, I wanted to give a reminder, since the blue-yellow combo deck is kind of picking up some steam, and then all this other multicolored goodness like the multicolored Zamasu and the red, green, etc., etc. So if you have a skill that says choose one of your blue energy to switch to active mode, if it is a blue-yellow multicolored card, can you switch it to active mode? Yes, it can. So these two rulings are really weird, or at least these two understandings of the game are interesting, because now we're saying your blue energy still counts as a blue-yellow multicolor. I'm not gonna go over it as far as the Iron Vow Trunks and saying choose up to one of your blue energy, and saying that all your blue energy has to be blue, and if it has a blue-yellow, it still counts as a blue. But you say that, Bandai's saying that non-red means it's still a red-green card. It's still green. I guess it's just kind of annoying, but just know that if you're going to be using something like Dimension Magic, Whis Coercion, Aegis, things like that, if you choose up to one of your blue energy and the vice versa of that is one of your yellow energy, can you switch this to active mode with a blue-yellow multicolor in your energy? Yes, you can. So just know that. There you go. Bandai said so. Very helpful question over here. What does it mean to draw a card? When you draw a card, you take the top of your card without revealing to anyone and placing in your hand. If you guys didn't know that, there you go. High quality content. I want to give a quick ruling here as far, or not quick ruling, but a quick understanding as a third one, as in the red-green multicolored card in combo area, or really any other arrival requirement, as in a blue-yellow arrival, red-green, soon to be red-yellow, that sort of thing. Can you combo that in an activate arrival? Yes, you can. That question keeps popping up in different videos, different posts, etc. So definitely remember that. On the flip side, arrival does check for the original colors in combo area. I mentioned this before. If you have a Goku in the red Vegito leader that gives all colors, or most colors except for black and yellow, you can't actually use it, but you can use it in your energy. So again, more food for thought. Now, I do want to, put this out there for this one. There's been a lot of confusion for this that I've seen as far as the 2-cost Block of Revenge and then counterplay, choose 2 cards in your drop area and send in the warp, play this card. So, a lot of people are saying, if you choose those 2 cards from your drop area and send in the warp, do you play it for free? No, I don't think so. And the reason for that is because any counter play option, any counter card, any green counter, you have to pay the energy cost in order to play it. This is a requirement in order to do this counterplay as far as this goes. So you can pay this for 2 at any time, but you don't have to use this this effect as far as to use the 2 from drop into your warp. But in order to use this during the counterplay timing, as in if they play Gogeta 7 and you have this in your hand, you can go ahead and play that counterplay by warping 2 and then paying 2 of your energy to do it. You can pay 2 energy and then still have this on the field, but you still can't. You still have to use this requirement in order to use the counterplay. Again, counterplays are timing, so it goes the first window of like, hey, I'm paying energy to play a card, the second window, then playing a card after they paid energy, and then both of those have a counterplay option, as in Cobalesce, the new counterplays like the Denial of Hope, this and a couple others. You can play those that sort of timing. There you go. And I'm going to put it on the screen here. There we go. If you didn't know what this was, this is basically a battle flow chart that I made a while back, actually. If you ever need a reference as far as this goes, definitely reference this for anybody. And as you can see, the counter goes into effect first, and then autos, and after declaring attack, etc., etc. The mindset behind this is kind of the same when it comes to counter plays. But you can always go to the rule book instead when you take a look at the counter timing. So like it says here, player declares that they're playing a card. Player makes an attack, etc., etc. Those are the times that they can have you can have a counter timing for it, and that's basically what I'm referencing to. Another part of that is that in 10.10.1 it says counter is a keyword skill that can be activated only at the counter timing and by paying the energy and skill costs. So both of those things, again, like Battery and Laser, when it wasn't banned, you had to pay that 1 yellow in order to activate it and pay this energy. The same thing goes with Crusher Ball, which if it said you have to pay 1 yellow, you have to do that and pay its energy. The same thing is the same thing. Well, what am I saying? It's the same thing with the Toa. Some also compare this to the Surprise Attack Frieza, but Frieza is an auto effect, and saying if they get something KO'd, you can play this from your hand as long as it's not in the play in the battle area. Since this is an auto effect, not a counter effect, you don't have to pay the cost. It's very similar to the new 3-drop Goku that you can play it for free after you play the Goten Familia Bonds, and then really anything else that kind of comes out as an auto for free. Alright, no more of that, kind of beating into a dead horse. Let's go on to the next one. I think this is the 4th or 5th. There we have the new Banisher Fu, this one right here, in which says this permanent, you can't activate skills unless they choose well, the opponent can't activate skills unless they choose one card from a hand and set into warp. The timing for this is similar to the timing for the, well, let me back up here. The timing for the counterplay is before his permanent starts being active and he's actually on the board. So the question here is that if you use something like Toa, the new revenge blocker, or even the or something like Crusher Ball or Mutaito, etc., you actually don't have to pay that cost as long as the counterplay is beforehand. So for this one, you don't have to pay the cost. Something like Mutaito, in which you play this card during the counterplay effect, and the turn play autos go through, and then the actual card is now on board, the Banisher Fu, that is, or Banisher Fu. The auto of the opposite player will go off, in which this is a skill that they have to warp a card for. So Mutaito is a little bit different. Same thing for the Champa the Trickster. All of those that have an auto, that is. Another option, or at least another example for that, is that the auto for Broly, where it says auto if your opponent activates a counter skill, deal 1 damage to them. The counter play effect is not affected by this because this is not on board until, well, the counterplay is still the counterplay is before this is on board. So the counter skill does not activate. Well, the auto skill does not activate. And if you need reference for that, it is in the Q&A. So if an opponent activates a counterplay in response to the card, the counter reversal being played, does the auto skill activate? It doesn't, because it's before it's actually played. All right, a couple more now. So a very popular card, or something that I think it's going to be popular, if not already, is the Vegeta the Cruel, in which you counterplay, again, the timing for it, and then the auto right after. So the thing about this card is that it is during the counterplay, and anytime that you do play a card, which this is being played, it opens up another counter window in which the other person is able to do another counterplay. So what I'm saying is that, or the question, or the ruling, or whatever you want to call it, is that can you play a counterplay, as in Preemptive Strike, or Denial of Hope, or All Too Easy, I think is the one. Can you play those in response to this, and then return to the hand, or KO it, or whatever it may be? Yes. And the answer is yes, and just like any other card that you would play. So if anybody does play this, and you have 2 open energy, I would definitely go for it, especially if they're going to make you warp a card and KO something. Alright, the last counterplay, I hope this one is the new counterplay that I expect to turn probably a really good answer for the new combo deck, Kid Goku, etc. Anything anti-aggro, or anything aggro-ish. If your opponent has 3 or more battle cards in play with the energy cost of 2 or more, the battle card your opponent is being placed, or playing, is placed into the drop area. Instead, choose all battle cards with energy costs of 2 or less in your barrier and send it into the owner's warp. So there's a lot of things going on with this card, and very specified for a reason. So you basically first need your opponent to have 2 or 3 or more battle cards, including the one that they're playing, an energy cost of 2 or more. So if, let's say, they have a 2 cost, a 3 cost, and now they're playing another 2 cost, you can then go ahead and play this right after. You can't play this if they have 1 2 costs and then 2 1 costs, and then playing a 1 cost right after that. It requires the 2 or more requirement as they have 3 or more battle cards in play. So that's a huge thing to kind of remember, and to make sure you don't misplay, because if you do misplay and you reveal the card and you can't play it, then now they can just go ahead and play around it. That's a huge thing. Another part of it is that it does ignore barrier, which is good. It does set into warp, not drop. But the other thing is that all battle cards with 2 or less is being placed into the warp. So that means your side of the field as well. So I just wanted to make sure that everybody knows that, so that way they're not misplaying, and you can actually play this card properly. So a couple of reminders before we close this one out. Vegeta making an entrance. This one is the new counter in which you choose 3 battle cards with 3 costs or more, and power of 35k or less, and place them in the bottom of the deck. That's a number counter, right? And this one can only be played using counter skills from your hand, basically. I don't want to say anything else. I got that wrong first time. And you can only play 1 from your in your battle area. So you basically have to combo this out or swing with it and then do something afterwards. But the only reason why I bring this up is that if you activate the counter, you can still activate it, but you can't play it into the battle area. So you can actually play it, so it's not a dead card, but you have to place this right into the drop area, just like how I did, or I went over in the Green Broly deck, in which you play a Master Roshi, you counter the attack, and it goes straight to drop if you have two battle cards on board and you're Awakened Green Broly leader. Another thing is that if it gets Mafuba'd, you can now, well, basically you play another one afterwards as a counter, and then now you have 2 copies after the Mafuba goes away, after the turn and a half it goes through, and then you choose one of them and place it at drop. So you can always play that out, or plan that out properly. And finally, the last one, which this kind of makes 9, but these are really just honorable mentions and reminders. If you activate, so let's say you have a childhood Gohan, or Gohan's Son Gohan Youth, like 2 1-drops on the field, and then you play this guy, and then you activate Alliance, in which it gains the power, draw 2 cards, is critical, all that, right? If you get Mafuba'd, Alliance is considered an auto. So even if this gets Mafuba'd, you can still use that effect and do that. The other part of it is that if it gets negated, it still goes through. If this goes out, as in like if you use a counter, I forget the blue counter that it does it, I think it's Spirit Sword, and then you return this to hand or whatever it may be, the auto still goes through and you can still switch it to Alliance because it is a pending auto. The only way to get around this is if you Mafuba or remove or whatever the targets for Alliance. So if they only have 1 Gohan on board, you just remove that on board, and then it will prevent the Alliance, and they can't switch anything to rest mode. They don't get the effects. There you go. I think that really does it. If I got anything wrong, please let me know in the comments below. I'm sure Judge Manny will let me know, or let everybody else know. If need be, please join the Discord if you have any questions. We go through them pretty much on a daily basis at this point. Subscribe if you're new, like, dislike, all that other stuff. And I'll see you in the next one. Later.